engine wiring harness, turbocharger, tensioning wheel disassembly. Peripheral disassembly tools include sleeve tool, torque wrench, cup pliers, removing engine wiring harness. Disconnect the plug of the rail pressure sensor. Remove the actuator plug from the valve cover. Disconnect other sensor connectors. Remove the clip that fixes the wiring harness. Remove the two electrical plugs from the ECM. Remove the exhaust throttle harness plug. Using a socket wrench, remove the grounding point of the wiring harness and generator connection harness. Remove the intake pipe bracket. Using a socket wrench, remove the two fixing bolts of the intake pipe bracket. Remove the intake pipe. Removing exhaust pressure sensor. Use a wrench to remove the exhaust pressure sensor bolt. Remove the exhaust pressure sensor. Remove the intake pipe bracket. Use a socket wrench to remove the two fixing bolts. Remove the intake pipe bracket. Remove the exhaust throttle valve return pipe. Use a wrench to remove the exhaust throttle valve return pipe joint. Remove the exhaust throttle valve return pipe. Remove the exhaust throttle valve water supply pipe. Use a socket wrench to remove the two fixing bolts of the exhaust throttle valve water supply pipe. Use a wrench and socket tool to remove the joint at both ends of the exhaust throttle valve water supply pipe. Remove the exhaust throttle valve water supply pipe. Remove the exhaust manifold heat shield. Use a socket tool to remove the four fixing bolts. Remove the two exhaust manifold heat shields. Remove the turbocharger oil return pipe. Use a socket wrench to remove the two fixing bolts. Grasp the bottom of the turbocharger oil return pipe by hand and pull out the return pipe. Remove the turbocharger fuel supply pipe. Use a socket wrench to remove the two fixing bolts of the turbocharger fuel supply pipe. Remove the turbocharger fuel supply pipe. Remove the turbocharger assembly. Use a socket wrench to remove the four fixing bolts of the turbocharger assembly. Note that a bolt needs to be reserved during disassembly. Prevent components from falling off during disassembly. Remove the turbocharger assembly. Removing exhaust manifold. Use a socket wrench to loosen the 12 fixing bolts of the exhaust manifold from both sides to the middle in sequence. Use a socket tool to remove the 12 fixing bolts and spacer sleeves of the exhaust manifold. Note that a bolt needs to be reserved during disassembly to prevent it from falling off during disassembly. Remove the exhaust manifold. Dismantle the crankcase breathing tube and breathing hose. Use a socket wrench to remove the 2 fixing bolts of the crankcase breathing tube. Use carp pliers to loosen the breathing hose clip. Remove the crankcase breathing tube and breathing hose. Removing the starter motor. Use a socket wrench to remove the 3 fixing bolts. Pay attention to retaining one bolt during disassembly to prevent the component from falling off during disassembly. Remove the starter motor. Removing oil filter. Use a socket wrench to remove the oil filter. Remove the oil filter. Remove the thermostat housing and coolant bypass pipe. Use a socket tool to remove the 4 fixing bolts of the thermostat housing and coolant bypass pipe. Remove the thermostat housing and coolant bypass pipe. Remove the cooling fan drive belt. Use a torque wrench to rotate the fan belt tensioner wheel. Separate the pulley from the belt. Remove the cooling fan belt. Note that if the belt has cracks, scratches, tears, cuts, or excessive wear, the belt needs to be replaced. Dismantling the machine cooling module. Use a socket tool to remove the 2 connecting bolts between the oil supply pipe joint and the engine cooling module. Use a socket tool to remove the 15 fixing bolts of the water manifold and oil cooler. Pay attention to retaining one bolt during disassembly to prevent components from falling off during the disassembly process. Remove the machine cooling module. Remove the belt tensioner and bracket. Use a socket tool to remove the 2 fixing bolts of the belt tensioner and bracket. Remove the belt tensioner and bracket.